Having a Gas is the podcast that talks to the great and the good of the creative industries, and in particular finds out what makes great music for film, for TV, for commercials, for dancing to, for cooking to, f***ing to, and more. Today I'm having a gas with Richard Denney, the Executive Creative Director of St. Luke's. Richard began his career by becoming the youngest ever board member of Y&R in 1998. He then built his reputation as a bankable creative director, cruising through the biggest agencies in the industry before settling in at St. Luke's. Hello, Richard.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing okay. What's on your plate today? How are you coping?
What have I been up to? So I've literally was just wolfing a sandwich down whilst having a chat with our Chief Creative Officer. So we were having a bit of a chinwag, had a couple of client meetings this morning. Pretty full on, actually, considering.
Yeah. What did it look like on that second week of March when things went? How was the feeling? When did St. Luke's empty for lockdown? Prior to lockdown, I think everyone knew what was coming. So we started we prepped way in advance, really. Looking at what was going on around the world. When did you start? Sort of end of February?
Yes. Yeah, we started a lot later. So, we were all in the office and then we were sort of testing systems and, obviously this sort of stuff. And we started doing, in fact, Neil Henderson, our CEO, he said, let's start trial running what remote working would be like for all of us. So yeah. I think it was for a couple of weeks we remote worked on a Friday, then a Monday, just in case, because all of a sudden if you're all in the office and you're working, then shut down. We don't want anyone to go anywhere from tomorrow. Are we equipped and ready to carry on as if carry on business as usual? So we did that a few weeks in advance, and then prior to that week where it was getting quite tense, a lot of people did start working remotely. I know that I was going in the office, I think, every other day, just to sort of get into the, pick stuff up, get stuff ready, even, funny enough, bring back sort of things like layout pads and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was doing a bit of scribbling. So that come the lockdown, we were, good to go, if you like. A lot of our clients as well, some of the businesses and, work remotely, and we have clients where we are on using Zoom. So, it's not as though it was, a new piece of kit for us. It was just basically the whole world transferring to that and doing it all in one go. But yeah, no, we had it sussed and we started, we have a thing on Friday afternoon called Nibs where we have food and drinks together from like 4:30 and we just have a chat about the week. And we started doing that prior to lockdown as well, so that when it did happen, we were, the transition was a really good one, even though we were all remote. So I think, we did well prepping, like I imagine most people were doing in our business.
Yeah, Rory Sutherland said he went into London on March the 11th and it was like a ghost town.
Yeah, so you could feel it.
Yeah, we're up here, we were obviously... it was a strange thing for me personally because through January, February, I was like, there's something going on in China, and that's bad luck for China. They seem to never get a break on these kind of things. And then, it's in Italy as well. Not that many though. There's one in Brighton, and then a few weeks later, it's like, it seems to be on the move. And then me and my dad. My dad came to meet me in Manchester on the 8th of March and he said, I'm driving in to avoid COVID-19. And I was like, that's weird. He never does anything like that. And then a week later, you saw obviously the Daily News with Boris saying more and more, obviously reluctantly, obviously went against all of his instincts. He really didn't want to do it. And he was like, if you've got symptoms, stay home for 7 days. And then a couple of days later, it was like, work from home where you possibly can. Yeah. And so it sounds like for you guys, you'd already been trialing that and it was like, right, let's go.
And I think as well, like most of us, we work in an industry where you have sort of global connections, and I've got friends and all that. And I had friends in some of the parts of Italy that got it like really badly. And they were kind of telling us that, and I think they were 2-3 weeks ahead of us. And they were sort of messaging, I know I was chatting to my mate Diego, and he was sort of messaging me about how grim it was, and you know, it's coming. It's almost like they could see the wave and we couldn't, you know. And I think that's the part of it. And I think, you know, and obviously a lot of businesses that we work with were looking at their global partners and you know, people that they deal with. So I think everyone knew it was coming. It was just a case of when, wasn't it, really?
Yes, yeah. I after a certain point, it really was. And for me, it was, I think I caught onto it much later. Because, you know, in London, I get the sense that it was creeping much more quickly. And yes, it felt like for me, I didn't really catch on till 8th of March onwards. I was like, this might be a bit grim. And then it was like a couple of weeks later, everyone stay home until we tell you not to. And that was weird. But we're all, you know, we're all acclimatized to it now. Things are starting to open up again, and we're starting to cautiously move back out. And now we're having the reverse phenomenon, where at the beginning of the lockdown, you had people being reluctant to go along with it for the first 2 weeks, and now you've got people reluctant to go back outside and being highly critical of everyone for going out to the pub. So, you're all still working from home, I take it.
We are, yeah. I mean, we go in, like, we had a couple of some of the guys, not me personally, but some of the guys have got had some, you know, big client meetings, and most of it has been remote. But there's been the odd, you know, we've got some new business where they've met in the office, but social distance, masks, everything, gone through that, you know, protocol. But other than that, we're still doing what we, you know, the system like this. You know, I live out in the sticks. I don't live in London. So some of us, you know, I went in a couple of weeks ago, but I didn't have to get up or get on a commute or anything like that, you know, early in the morning. I just went in when I thought it would be the quietest and left before everyone else. Yeah. But yeah, we're still up and running like this. I think the more it eases down, you know, things are starting to, you know, go back into production now. That's starting to happen. Got friends that are, you know, in production that you know, they're working, and studios are popping up now, and, you know, life is starting again. But it's not right. Monday morning, see you at 9, and then that's it all week. I think, you know, it's going to be staggered. I think one thing that we are going to be doing is working more remotely. You know, so we are going to have days where we're at home and do less of going in, because, you know, we've learned that it can be done, and you can still be as productive working like this.
Yes.
You know, I think that's going to change for a lot of people. I think, you know, everyone said that I know that I've talked to, that there's a lot of good that's come out of it. And I don't just mean that sort of from sort of speed, but actually being at home and actually thinking and having that time to sort of get your head around stuff, rather than sort of get up in the morning, get ready, get on a train or get on a packed tube, commute across London. Do you know what I mean? You can, of course, you can get going quite quickly. I think the danger of it is, and I found that is because you're working from home, that I've worked more than I would, you know. We all
you can start earlier and you can stop later.
Start earlier, and you don't really switch off, and then you kind of, because you're at home, you can't really do anything. So you know, we don't do weekends, but we've been doing a little bit of weekends because we've just been at home. A few of us like, yeah, just chat. But usually we don't. Yeah. So you've got this balance in that. I think that's the most important part. Otherwise, it kind of, you know, becomes a system. Then it becomes you're doing it every day. So you know, we're sort of mindful of that. And what we're doing now is, you know, we've you know, touch wood. We're lucky. We've had a busy period, and as I said, we've got some good things to announce. So we've been busy. So now it's a little bit quiet, even though things are starting to go into production. We're making sure that people have got afternoons free and doing stuff, and, you know, go and do your own thing and all that. Because everyone's sort of, the brilliant thing about St. Luke's is, you know, great bunch of people that care about each other, and everyone's just rolled their sleeves up and got stuck in together. So we're just making sure that everyone can actually breathe now. Yeah,
it does sound like you're on it with the work ethic, because initially the resistance to flexible working was no one's going to do as much work. Whereas in your case, it sounds like there's too much work. There's not enough of a hard line between personal life and professional.
Yeah, I mean, St. Luke's is always, you know, the most important thing is, you know, with regards to us is, as I said, we don't do weekends. We try and shut the office early in the evening. So it's not, it's definitely not a sweatshop. We care about the people and their well-being. It's why most people that are at St Luke's have been there a long time. We've got this fund, Make Yourself More Interesting, where people get a couple £100 each year to go and do something different and learn a new skill. RMD Palmer, he now is in a band, plays the drums, which was that fund. Polina, one of our creatives, a few years ago, she had a helicopter pilot's lesson. She's now a fully qualified helicopter pilot.
Amazing.
Obviously, £200 a year doesn't fund that, but that's something she does. So she keeps her hours up. She flies bloody helicopters across to France and does stuff like that. And we've got yoga teachers out of it. So it's a very cultural look after you, because when you're like that and you're in that mind space, you bring your best self to work and you do your best work. It's just because of the situation we've been forced into, pitching and new business and the way that's changing and business being on hold and everything. We sort of said to everyone, are you up for, getting involved? Everyone was like, yeah, of course, so kind of look after your clan, if you like, and then your clients around it.
I'm interested to hear, have you worked for one of the agencies in the past that's under a big holding company, Omnicom, WPP, one of these?
I worked my entire career for networks. Y&R, which I stayed in, bought Rainey Kelly, and I worked with Rainey Kelly for a few years, which was excellent, brilliant. I think that was my first taste of an independent mindset in a network. It was such a talent, bunch of talented people. And then I was at Saatchi's for a few years, at DDB, and then DDB, from there I was at DLKW which would become MullenLowe as ECD. And then St Luke's has been my first taste. I've been there 3 years. I think it's my anniversary this week of independent life.
Great. How does it compare?
It's very, very different. I mean, the first thing is you're not accountable to anyone upstairs or overseas other than yourselves. As everyone in that building is there, and it's your own. You've got your own destiny in front of you, and you answer to no one. I mean, I obviously answer to Al and Neil and the team, but you're all in it together. It's very, very, very different. You're not. There's lots of different ways. I mean, there's great things that networks have from sort of a perspective of, I think the good things that I enjoyed when I was in network, especially at DLKW, which was the creative community that we had. We used to get together with councils and look at each other's work. I still keep in touch with those guys, and we share stuff, and I've shared stuff with them before. But I love this. I love this independent thing. I think it's actually a breath of fresh air.
Why is that? Because you get to steer it a bit more independently and a bit more.
You definitely steer it more. What you guys shape for the business is what it is. It's not. Sometimes some networks, don't get me wrong, because some of the best agencies are attached to networks, but you can be a replicated voice, if you like, or a replicated. You're all quite similar, even in a network. Whereas, you do your thing, and that's what we do.
Yeah. So one thing I was interested in is obviously I want to move past lockdown stuff, but while it's still front of mind, and I was wondering, as ECD, has it affected your creative at all? Has have ideas had to change, and the way you're trying to get ideas across had to change in accordance with the way the world's changed since March?
Absolutely yes, is the answer to that. I think for me, it's been an incredible experience. Creating Stay Home Now. That wouldn't have happened if we hadn't gone into lockdown. So creating that piece of work, it was all done remotely. So it was done in this kitchen that I'm sitting in, and being plugged into everyone else in the team at homes, and then our friends that got involved, and director Malcolm Venville when he helped out with the film, and Rick Russell the editor, and Ben Lees who did the sound. And everyone did that remotely, and it demonstrated that we can do it. Now, obviously, there's lots of this cottage industry style footage that we're all getting a bit tired of now.
Yeah.
But what we did do was something iconic that people wanted, and it inspired us to carry on doing it and make it bigger and take it to the film and the things that we did. And, having Global and Clear Channel go, bloody hell, we love it. We'll put it on posters. And more importantly, to society, taking the SHM message and creating it and making it their own. From people dyeing their hair and shaving it in their head, to making T-shirts, to car stickers, even to a little boy doing a magic trick with a pebble. That's been a breath of fresh air. And I think what I've also loved is seeing how people have been creative during lockdown. And that isn't just people in our field. People have been inspired to do stuff, because you can't really go out for a walk, but you've got to be careful. You can't really do anything because everything's closed, which I think, so it's allowed people the time to re-engage and do things that maybe they did when they were younger, like paint or crochet or carpentry or anything like that, or discover a new skill and try stuff. Look at the amount of people that are gardening, and there was this I've seen people doing all sorts of incredibly creative stuff. And I think what has also happened is people have been isolated, so therefore they have to show and remind people how creative they are. So we've seen incredible stuff from illustrators sharing new work, and people putting out stuff out there themselves, and just making things just to keep relevant and keep in the spotlight, if you like.
Yeah.
But the other side of that is really good, as well as the positivity surrounding it, and not the constructive criticism, if you like, rather than is it good, isn't it good? It's like people have gone, yeah, that's great, do it. And I think that's what's been brilliant, and I hope will continue, that need for a community spirit to get behind people, no matter what it is, to make something and do something and actually go, fucking good on you, you're doing it, and I think that's what I've loved about it. And, we're still seeing bits like that now, because it's not great, salaries have been cut, and, the people that are struggling with regards to business, but even in our industry, from freelancers, they're out there desperately trying to do their thing. I know that as a friend of mine, a creative that we've used before, and a good mate, Rob Porteous, and his partner Dave Asquith, they've just done something for the hospitality industry who's struggling, called Invisible Chips, and they're inviting people to buy invisible portion of chips, and it's like $3.50, and you can get a drone delivered and all that, and they've got spokespeople coming up and chefs and everything to help support the charity. And that was a bit of proactive work, because they're like, desperate to do work, but just to show what they're doing, and it's fantastic. It's really, really good to see, and they're getting a lot of response to it, and I think because there's a necessity to be inventive and creative and show what you're capable of and how creative you can be, and it's a brilliant bit of work, and so there's lots of that, and that's what I love. The tough thing has been, obviously, we had shoots planned and booked, they have to freeze. Some of the stuff you can't shoot, so you put it on hold. Animation is going to see a whole new boom. I mean, we've got some stuff in production before lockdown that was animation that we're super excited about, but you're going to see more incredible animation, because it's one thing that can be done remotely, and then lockdown forces you, hopefully, to try and be inventive. It's all been getting a bit familiar with the mobile phone thing, but hopefully there are definitely the standout things there that people have gone, wow, what a great bit of creative. I mean, one of my most exciting and inventive things I've seen out of the whole of this was from the guys at Isanova. I think there's a bunch of scientists in Italy who did that. Did you see the 3D printed valve that was attached to the Decathlon face mask?
No, I didn't see that.
Got a ventilator respiratory problem in it. This was in Italy. There wasn't enough ventilators. So they designed a 3D printed valve that could plug into a Decathlon, those full face snorkels that then could be plugged into an oxygen tank so people could breathe.
Amazing.
It's absolute genius.
Yeah.
And they did that for free. And then they've put the patent on the website for free for hospitals to use. 3D print, got a valve, Decathlon supply the masks, they can plug them into oxygen tanks, people can breathe and hopefully save lives. That is creativity in a crisis right there.
Yeah, because that's. I was talking to Ben Kay about this yesterday, saying that creativity is, almost by definition, born of constraints. It's when you have a problem to solve and a narrow and narrow parameters in which to solve it. And that's it's a good example of a quick response to a brief, I suppose.
Well, the problem is sometimes we have far too many rules.
Yeah.
And when you haven't got any time and you kind of put it into that perspective, you have to sometimes rip up the rule book and think again. And also simplification, not complication.
Yes.
What is it? Do I understand it? If you think about an emergency sign and exit, it doesn't say loads of messages on it, does it? It just says exit. And that's the problem is sometimes when you look at stuff it just gets busy. It gets busy and busy and busy. And in the end, you don't know what to take out of it. So I think, when you're forced into that mindset, you've got to go, right, what's the information I need to take in? Right, I take that in. I understand. Thanks. And just be clever, or try and be clever without being clever, if you like, to do it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's something that Paul Burke was championing when I was speaking to him. He was saying that we've gotten to the point where some out-of-home work, you don't know what it's selling or how you would buy it. And of course, sometimes that's the purpose of the creative work, is it's to take complications and move it down into something which you can easily understand, usually in a sentence or two, which is obviously the genius of the copy. And I'm reading something at the moment that is exploring that hypothesis about what's happened to Adland and to creative in general. I mean, how long have you been in the creative industry? When did you get started?
I've been doing it for 24 years.
Oh, really?
So
wow.
quite a long time.
Yeah.
Grey hairs are coming. Yeah, the grey hairs are coming. Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought so from looking, but...
Very kind.
Well, it means you've been doing it since I was 3 years old, just to put it in perspective.
That's nice to know.
And so what I was wondering was, have you seen this transformation that gets discussed quite a lot at the moment, which is that the creative is getting more and more... it's not because the creative ideas are taking fewer risks, and the agencies are more fearful of their clients because the clients are quite tempted to put more of their budget into data and interpretation of data and ways to get directly to their customers over social media and things like this. Have you noticed a change in the way the work is done and the quality of the work?
There's definitely a change in the way that work's done, and everyone's got or had data in the past to try and back up why one thing is more successful than the other. But a lot of the time that stuff doesn't work and it's not memorable. And I think the thing is, what I think the best clients understand that entertainment and mediums used properly will be successful. And data can play an important part in it, but it's not. But it isn't an idea. It's not an idea. And that's the danger. I would say is when it's treated as as an idea rather than as part of a means to try and communicate a good idea. And I think that's the danger. I think the other thing as well is formats. Is you put communications out there, and a lot of it doesn't really stack up or match, if you like. So the best brands, they can put work out there and you'll know it's from them. They can disappear in shutdown, for example. I mean, here's a great example. KFC, for example. Okay, KFC understands its target audience. It does brilliant communications. It's got a great tone of voice. Everyone knows what it. They've done a great job. From the fuck on the bucket. They can play with an audience. They can do some brilliant TV. They can really engage with you. They've got a visual world that's distinct, and you get it. But what can happen is shutdown can come where people aren't going to spend, but they can still join in a conversation whilst COVID's happening with Rate My KFC. Did you see that? It's brilliant idea. Now, everyone's watching the same stuff over and over again and seeing the same sort of footage and the same sort of stuff. And some of that earlier on stuff was brilliant, still seeing those brands switched on. But KFC doing it using wit in a time where people are nervous, scared. It's not nice things are happening, but still have a bit of entertainment keeps them at top of mind. So that the moment that the doors are open and you can drive to a KFC and get your bucket and sit out in the car park, they're back like a shot.
Yeah,
and I've seen it because I took the kids and they're all sitting in the car park, hundreds of them, all with their KFCs. Yeah, but that's because they went quiet, but they didn't disappear. Yes. They still did their things. Our clients still did bits. They were still doing stuff. They were helping the NHS. They were doing things. They weren't shouting about all that stuff. They were just getting on and doing it as well. And I think the tonal thing is right. And I think that's because they've got solid, grounded ideas. Mm-hmm. And data might get used at times, but it's not the idea. No. I think that's, hopefully we'll see more and more good ideas again.
Well, this is it, because I think a lot of us creative types, and God help me for lumping myself in with you, but as if I can say, well, you and me, we're of a type, ECD and a producer, but we got in to make the work and to make stuff that would entertain, amuse, engage, stir, move. We want to make that stuff, and that's what people want to see, I believe. People don't like being bothered. They don't like stuff interrupting their flow and saying, by the way, YouTube pre-roll, I think, is getting quite bad. It's like, oh, just watch this for 5 seconds, and you try and get the idea in 5 seconds, and here's a second advert. Now you've got 2 adverts, and some of them, have you seen the ones that say, just while you're here, can you tell us which of these brands you've heard of? And you have to do a little survey. That's not an idea. It's not creative, and I think I have a feeling that people will not mind seeing a good advert that they didn't ask to see, if it's great, if it's Cadbury's Gorilla, if it's Guinness Surfer, if it's No Child Born to Die by Adam and Eve from 10 years ago. And everyone, the whole nation talks about John Lewis every year. And so it seems like it will be in the brand's interest to really engage with the creative and not get lost down this kind of rabbit's warren of, more and more sort of insidious ways to get right to the customer and tap them on the head. And the KFC is a great example, because like you said, they stayed front of mind by being entertaining, not by being annoying.
Yeah, and the other thing as well is they're not treating the consumer like they're bloody stupid.
Yes.
And I think that's the thing. I think that's when people get really wound up and they just go, oh, not that same old generic formulaic shit. Here we go again. And they've got the power in their finger just to press next.
Yes.
And it's gone. But that, that's not rocket science. It's convincing those brands that, there's ways of doing that and using that button so that they don't press send, or that they, have a one-to-one emotionally engaged, like you say, make them laugh or cry or, want to know more. And I think that's when creativity is at its greatest. There's proper emotional connection and understanding of the people you're talking to, rather than treating them as a number and a wallet, if you like.
Yeah. I actually fully sympathize with that perspective, because ultimately, when if you're a brand and you're trying to get through to your customers, you ultimately are doing it because you need their money. But ironically, if you act like that's the main motivation, then it's less successful. You know what I mean? It's like the same with normal standard B2B sales. If you go to your prospect and just regard them as, all right, what's your budget? How much stuff do you need this? Then they won't feel like you're talking to them. They'll feel like you're trying to get around them and straight to the checkbook, and they won't want to engage. And so it's it's interesting that it happens at all levels. But regarding the actual creative stuff, what stuff have you seen? What work have you seen? Ads, out of home, print, TV, over the last, let's say, 12 months that have really impressed you?
I love Britain Get Talking. I think that's an absolutely incredible campaign. I think the strength and the power of that idea to be able to be a little lockup on ITV screen, with that message on. And then the way that they've done it with their films, even in lockdown, and then the texting and everything is genius. The press ads are beautiful. It's an absolutely brilliant piece of work. So I love that. Hold on one sec. So I think that's great. What else? Recently, I mean, over the last 12 months, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we've sort of been living in this bubble. What else have I really enjoyed? KFC. I love where the journey KFC's been on. I think, that every time I see a new piece of work come out from those guys, I get excited. I love that work. I really like the new direction that Just Eat took in lockdown. Snoop Dogg.
Yeah,
the Snoop Dogg ad. Purely because what's interesting is there was a conversation the other day, and I think I can't remember, it was my wife and my son was talking about. We were watching a film, and one of them said, "It's weird how people are standing next to each other."
Yeah.
So I sort of latched onto that. I was like, crikey, we really are in this film world now where, because we've already talked about shooting and obviously social distancing and stuff like that. So is that part of the norm? If you're seeing people together, are people are obviously now, or it might just be my family, looking at work and then seeing a previous life, if you like.
Yes.
So when that Snoop Dogg ad came on, and I love it, who doesn't love a bit of Snoop Dogg? And there was none of that. There was no social distancing. It was him and his dudes in their home. It just made me bloody laugh. And I think, I think that's what we need right now, entertainment.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love that. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
A recent piece.
Did you see the TikTok ad by Ogilvy?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was really good because it was when you reflect on it, obviously made on Zoom because it was all the influencers and celebs who they'd recruited for it at home. But it absolutely wasn't a part of the idea. It was just, this is people using the app. And that can be done from home, but we don't need to make a deal about the fact that it's done from home. And I think that's what that sounded like what you were getting at just then. It's like, as an industry, we need to carry on making good stuff without constantly referring to coronavirus and lockdown, because I actually think people want to forget about it sometimes. I think people want to aspire to be out of it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think we'll start seeing more and more work that doesn't remind us of lockdown. We'll have to, because of safety, shoot stuff and be kept mindful, but it's not going to scream in a lockdown world, Yes. And I think more and more of that hopefully will come back on our screens, and a lot of that mobile sort of, cottage industry, all shot on an iPhone stuff will disappear.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be a nicely dated idea when we can look back on it and go, wasn't that good?
Ready for the second wave.
Yes, of course. But but we'd be remiss if we didn't get on some music, because I know that's been, not only do I know that it's been a big part of your career because you mentioned that before, but also I went down the landing page on St. Luke's and all of the TV season online ads that were on the front page. Very strong musical component.
Oh, thanks. I mean, for me, music's really, really important. I think, it's interesting. I think the thing with it is, though, is it's really tricky because it can be so polarizing.
Yes.
Finding music that, isn't just necessarily for a target audience, because people all have different flavors. They have different styles of music they like. But so finding the right track for a piece that's going to appeal to everyone isn't an easy task. And then and also finding something that is representative and right for the brand as well. You've got to get that right. But no, it's music for me is always played a big thing in certainly in the work that I've done over the years.
Yeah,
and literally to the point where music has been part of the idea. As we discussed with Stay Home Now, We'll Meet Again. We use that because it was relevant, because the Queen had mentioned it, and it was off the back of Dame Vera Lynn's wartime song. But also the words were relevant to the message we were trying to say. We were literally in the UK, we'd just hit our peak. So something was working. People were listening to the messaging that was out there about staying at home. So we got the NHS staff on the front line and the key workers and then the sleds to help give them a little boost. And them all speaking those words and then saying together we can turn this around was, we will meet again. Just keep going. Don't go out just yet. So it played a relevant role in that. And I think we've whenever we're using music or always it's interesting. I've had clients in the past go, look, can you put a piece of music on it? I want that music. You try it 9 times out of 10. I've had it happen a couple of times where the music has definitely been on the film prior, but you shoot the thing and it doesn't quite match. But I always try to write, if ever I've been writing scripts or doing stuff like that, write with music in mind, and I write while that's playing, because I think that helps put you in a mood, set you in the environment, set a tone for it. I've even used it years ago. We did a Cronenberg ad called Femme Fatale, where it actually launched Kenobi, the band Kenobi, and the music was slipping to something more comfortable. And it was a bit of sort of black comedy, if you like, where you thought all these dudes were, there was a butcher who was about to chop his hand off. Everyone, and there was a model, and it's not right now, but it was a model. They were all looking at the model. There was a guy, electrician, that goes to get electrocuted. There was a guy with a pickaxe that sticks a pickaxe. And you think they were looking at the girl, but they're looking at the pint. But the music, that piece of music, we found that prior to shooting it, and we actually used it in casting.
Yes.
When we looked at the main lead, we played tapes and tapes of our leading lady, and we played that music, and that really set the tone. Was she going to really portray what we wanted for that, the desire of the guys that are about to end their life or chop their hands off? And it was just a match made in heaven. And with the director as well, that music set the tone for the lighting and the direction. Malcolm Benville did that for us, who did SHM. And it worked all the way through. But then sometimes we've done that and we've had music on mood reels and casting takes. When you shoot them and put them together, they don't match at all. So you've got to start again. But that's the interesting thing about it.
That's what I find really interesting about music is you can't really argue with it. It does command a certain feeling, and if it's not working on the film, it's just not working. And you couldn't squeeze the track until it did work. You know what I mean? And vice versa with the edit. And it's interesting. I've never actually heard it used as a casting tool, but it will have the same effect. You'll be trying to cast the right person, and you'll be hearing that track, and you'll be thinking. It's almost like, if you regard your potential casting choice as the edit, it's like, do they look right with this track? If not, that's a really interesting approach. It's similar to something I know that Sergio Leone at one point shot his film. I can't remember which one, maybe Once Upon a Time in America, with the score, Ennio Morricone, actually on loudspeakers, so that people would feel as they were supposed to. And so there's this kind of inarguably compelling thing about it. Have you?
We've done that on shoots. We've played the music at full belt through giant speakers.
What kind of thing were you shooting?
What was it with? I think we did it with a director years ago on Land Rover. Yeah. Where the director wanted we had the music track in mind. I mean, we did it for we've done it for Rock the Ribbon, and we did it for the Last Tango in Compton, Jonathan Glazer. You play the music and they're doing it to picture. You might not use it, but that's what you've got. I think we had something I think it was actually the track, dancing and performing to it, just to set. One, you need it for rhythm with a dance piece, but even with the other one, with the performance to help get them into it, because there's no dialogue, and it can really, really help set the tone and the mood and the action and the performance.
Yeah. How do you solve the problem of when you're looking for music for the creative work, not just exploring your own taste palette, you know what I mean? Not just going to what you listen to. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's if I was to go on the things that I would want to hear all the time, it wouldn't always work. So it's got to be right. I suppose I'm lucky, and that's probably most people, but I like all style of music. I appreciate everything, and that's because of partly what I do, but I've always been inspired by different styles of music anyway. And so, for me, therefore, what I love isn't, if it was one style, it wouldn't always be the answer. It's got to be what's right for the film, what's right for the brand, what's right for the tone, the story. Is it part of the narrative? And I think that's you've got to keep an open mind in that, and also chuck things in there that you wouldn't necessarily expect to work with it. I think clash, put them together, make them awkward.
Yes,
that can be beautifully disruptive and work really, really well, rather than what you would expect on it.
Yeah. I know exactly the type of thing that you're describing there. I've got a good example I might show you after this, but I was interested to talk about projects you've been involved in where you've been quite, let's say, invested in the music, and maybe it hasn't gone the way you wanted. I know you mentioned that you were involved in a project with Mike Skinner, or what was that for?
Oh yeah, that was when we was at DDB. We launched Virgin Media, a more exciting place to live, and funny enough, the concept was music based right from the off. The words, the narrative, were from Madness is Our House. Seb Edwards shot it, so it was different scenes. It was our house in the middle of our street. Father wears his Sunday best. The kids are playing up downstairs. Sisters lying asleep, but she can't hang around. Our house has a crowd. And what we did is we shot Virgin Media households and life to each of those verses and set a picture of what an exciting place to live was like.
Yeah.
So that become the narrative over it, if you like, the voice over the top. And we had turned the page from the streets, that should start singing. We had that over it, and it was bloody brilliant. The way that they it just was so upbeat and dramatic and absolutely anthemic, and it had all gone through, and it was cool. But Mike Skinner, he had the, like you do on a lot of these big pieces, he had the last, approval on it. And we shared the film, finished and everything. And I think it was about 2 or 3 days before launch. And he said, "I don't want to do it. I don't want this." Which I did actually shed a tear.
Wow.
The track that we had, it was really nice, but it was good. It was a good piece. I think it's still on my personal reel. But the music that was on it that we didn't have took it to the next level. And I think that's the sad part of it. And I think it turned out he was in the middle of a project and he was doing something. It was a bit weird. Not him. I think he's an incredible talent. And we paid homage into it. We had this block of flats that we'd shot, a beautiful shot idea from Seb, and for one of the scenes, and it was a reference and homage to him because we were using his music to the streets. And I think he thought, hang on a minute, they're just going to rip off my thing. And he was about to release this new video that was quite similar. And I think he thought it might overpower his. So he changed his mind and pulled out. Money wasn't an option.
I think with some artists, it's a case of, I don't want to just be associated with this advert. Yeah.
And we've pitched for music before and I won't say, and the record label's gone, oh yeah, they love that, but the artist doesn't want to do it because they're wound up with their label and they don't want their label to get the money. So we can't do it. That's quite common. But yeah, so that was that. I had another one which had changed. We did an ad the same place actually. I think it was either just before for VW. Positive Thinking, Morecambe and Wise with the guy. It was during the recession. It was all about that one thing you can rely on, Passat. we ended up with this film shot by Noah Morrow, and it was a guy singing "When You Feel Down, Try Positive Thinking," and he walks on. It's all life shit. It's, you know, shops are closing down. Anyway, but one thing you can rely on is Passat. That wasn't the original track. The original track was Always Look on the Bright Side of Life, and it was going to be, and we wanted Eric Idle to do it, and he was going to then get in a Passat and then just drive off, and it was, well, I know it would have been so much bigger. It would have been so much bigger, and yeah, it come out, it was really nice, but it still pains me it wasn't that.
Yeah.
And he was up for it, and then he had wobble and changed his mind because of the Pythons and that piece of music. But it was next level shit, and it just there's this massive difference. Music, the importance of that track, the importance of that piece to the film, to the idea, can make or break. You know, now they're not broken. They were good pieces. They were good films. But I think had, you know, the Streets track been on that, it would have been next level. And I think had Eric sung "Look on the Bright Side" for Volkswagen, it would have been a much bigger and better ad for it. But you learn from it. You learn.
What do you make of the as an exec creative? What do you make of the difference in process between having something composed for the ad and syncing a known track? Because I get the impression a lot of the time it's tempting to go for a known track because it's already baked and you can work with it and not have to. You know, you have to negotiate. Your accounts team have to negotiate money wise, or your producers with the rights holders, but you never have to creatively negotiate with the track. It's already there.
I think both have absolute their merits. I think both are absolutely, relevant. I think what we have to be careful of is sometimes when you're composing because you can't get that track, so you try and do a knockoff of it. That's where my toes curl, if you like, and I go, oh, I know they're so, you either, for me, you can go, there's my inspiration, but you either find that track or do your own.
Yes.
I think you can kind of, hang on a minute, is that a knockoff version of X?
Yeah.
Look, Joe Public probably doesn't give a shit, but I would be like, oof, find that a bit uncomfortable.
You can always tell when someone's done it as well, yeah.
Of course you can. And I think that's the problem. But, composed music, I mean, crikey, Honda Guru, from the boys, from playing that guitar themselves and writing that song. What a great, genius bit of, not just the idea, but even that, to do that, and the whistling, them whistling, you can feel that, you can absolutely feel that in it, so composed music is absolutely, is brilliant. We've worked with composers, I can't remember the last piece I did, and had things scored, and it's wonderful because it becomes storytelling and part of the narrative. If you think about, this isn't actually a composed piece, this is a classical piece of music, but if you think about Stella, Ice Skating Priests, you've got that piece of music in it, which is, I think, is a Polish classical piece. Every single part of that music is almost the storytelling. To the score is the storytelling. To the reactions of the priests looking at the other one, the way that classical music works to each frame. Silent movie.
Yeah.
The music is the voice.
Yeah, I suppose that's
like reactions. It's the reactions. It's the guy falling through the ice. It's the people running around. And that's that just worked perfectly to picture. But you've got that composed feel on it anyway. Yeah.
With the ideal programmatic score is you want to be able to take away the film and still be able to see it because the score punctuates it so clearly. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, do you have to mind a top music choice in an ad?
Do you know what? When you said that to me the other day, I don't have a favourite. I've got a couple of favourites. I've got quite a few favourites because they evoke different emotions. But I'm going to pull out two. One's actually quite. Should I pull out two or three? I'm going to say them anyway. I'm going to do one that's quite fitting, and it isn't because Ennio Morricone sadly passed away this week. But I love David Fincher's Nike Fate ad. Did you ever see that?
I actually haven't seen it. We'll get it up.
Leave Nothing, and that has the Ecstasy of Gold by Ennio Morricone in it, which is from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And that film is the story of 2 NFL players from babies being born, and how you watch each of them growing up, and then how fate leads them to be, playing opposite each other in an American football match. That music on that, just even talking about it makes my hair stand on edge, and it's just so fucking big on it. It's just wonderful. I think it really takes that film to the next level, and really, you feel them building up and getting older. And that's what I love about old music, when you get it right and you put it on that picture and the way that Fincher shot that. And then the second one, because it's part of the idea, and even the update of it I thought was cool as fuck when it first came out, excuse my swearing, was Volkswagen Singing in the Rain, the original updated. So Gene Kelly, So then, the idea of him then doing body popping and breakdancing, I love it when he goes, I'm ready for love, and then it just drops. When that came out, I was like, oh my God, because they then updated the music as well, and Mint Royale did that. And that's part of the idea as well. They could have just left the music like that and left Gene, but they updated the original piece, Singing in the Rain. They updated that music track as well, and they both work perfectly. And again, what a brilliant anthemic film, brilliant idea, and music equally as strong as that film that it was married with. So I would pick out those 2.
Cool, and that's another great example of the creative idea doing the job. It's front of mind. There is Nike and VW. Was it? It's it brings the brands to front of mind when you remember the great work. And so, I get the impression that people are having a harder time than they used to selling on to the C-suite of the brand, your chief op and your chief information officer and the chief finance officer. It's like, wait, why are we paying you all this money to make a film that doesn't necessarily even show the product being used? Like, can't we just go straight to people on digital? But it's like, you remember that great work and it comes straight to the front of mind.
And music, if you think about it, think about ice cream vans. Ice cream vans have music in them. What's the first thing? You don't see the ice cream van coming. You hear an ice cream van coming. You start grinning. The doors open and you leg it outside. It's so distinct. Joy is coming,
Yeah.
And a memorable track, if you like.
Yeah.
And that's that's what you're trying to do. Not only does that film, the music play the role in taking you through that 30 seconds, whatever it is, 15, 60, a minute, whatever. But it plays a role in staying with you, so that every time you hear Guinness.
Yes, of course, yeah.
You know what I mean? Every time you hear that piano play, it's stellar. Every time you hear Can Hate Be Good, it's Honda. That's the power of good music, and and marrying that together with a picture, and it's important. We've seen ads where there is a great track on it, but the film isn't very good, and you don't really remember it. But when they're put together and they're done properly, you can't argue, and they stay with you forever.
Yeah. Well, it's we're about to come up on the hour, so that seems like a good place to jump off. But I definitely think there's probably more to go at, so we'll have to do this again. Hopefully, at a future time, we'll be able to come down to London, just set up a couple of mics, and
come in.
Yeah. And so with that, I'll say, thanks for speaking. Best of luck with everything going on at St. Luke's.
Thanks a lot. Really thanks for the opportunity as well to chat to you. It's great.
Great stuff. All right. Well, speak soon.
Yeah. Catch up. Bye.